Welcome back to another crochet tutorial with Cozy Rosie UK, and today I am sharing with you the 6th square from the Cable Comforts Heritage 8 to create a beautiful heirloom sampler at the heart of the Cable Comforts collection. Each unique crochet cable square showcases a different motif, from bold braids to delicate twists, designed to challenge and inspire you to create with confidence. Before we get started, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and of course the notification bell so you never miss out another one of my crochet patterns or tutorials again. If you are new to crochet cables, don't be put off by how complicated they look. Crochet cable stitches are simply made using post stitches, and it's how and where you work those post stitches that creates those beautiful intricate patterns. Every even number row in the square is just a row of US single crochets, a UK double crochet, so you will get a little reprieve after each row of those post stitches. Throughout this video I will be using US crochet terms, but if you head to the link in the description box below, you can view the written pattern on my website, or you can opt to purchase the ebook, which is available in both US and UK terms. That contains all 8 of the written square patterns, detailed cable charts, additional photo tutorials, plus you'll get the details of each stitch multiple for each of the cable patterns to transform those squares into individual blankets. To create your own Heritage 8 blanket, you are going to need to make 3 of each of these blanket squares for a total of 24 squares. We're then going to join them and edge that blanket all the way around. Each square is blocked to a finished size of 9 inches. You can of course opt to swap out some of those squares to create your own blanket size that you prefer. For my own Heritage 8 blanket, I've used Stylecraft Special Aran, which is 100% acrylic. This shade is silver, number 1203, and it has a recommended hook size of 5mm, which is the size of hook that I've used to make my blanket. If you are a tight crocheter, I would recommend going up just 1 or 2 hook sizes, so either a 5.5 or a 6. It is quite a firm blanket. It loosens up a little bit when we block it. For the meterage, you're going to need between 90 to 100 meters per square, which is about 100 to 110 yards. You're going to need a darning needle and a pair of scissors just to weave in those ends. So gather your materials and let's get started on the woven diamond square. I'm going to start by making a slip knot and placing that onto our hook, and we're going to begin row 1 by making a chain of 34. So we yarn over and pull through 34 times to create those 34 chains. Once you have your chain of 34, I'm going to encourage you to work into the back bump to create a really nice way to work into your edging around this square. So we're going to begin by working into that second chain from hook, or in my case the second back bump, and we're going to work 1 US single crochet into each chain across for the remainder of row 1, so that we end with a stitch count of 33. At the end of row 1, you should have a stitch count of 33 stitches, and that stitch count is going to remain the same throughout this pattern. So at the end of each row, you should always have 33 stitches. For row 2, we're going to make a turning chain of 1 and simply work 1 single crochet into the same stitch as our chain 1 and each stitch across. At the end of row 2, you should still have that stitch count of 33 stitches. Going into row 3, we are going to set up our cable pattern. We begin by making our turning chain of 1 and working 1 single crochet into the same stitch as our chain 1. We're then going to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. We're then going to work 1 front post double crochet around each of the next 2 posts. So we have worked 1, 2, 3 single crochets. So this is our next post to be worked around, and that's the second one. We're going to be working a front post double crochet around each of the next 2 single crochet posts 2 rows below. This is our current row and the post is the second row below. We're going to yarn over the hook. This one's been worked, so we're going around that post from the front out the front. Once you've yarned over, you're going to insert your hook underneath the stitch that is next on the row and insert your hook around that post. We yarn over, bring our loop up, yarn over, pull through 2 and pull through 2. So that completes that first of those 2 front post double crochets. We're going to yarn over and insert our hook around the next post 2 rows below, to complete that second front post double crochet. So you should have 2 raised stitches so far. For each post stitch that we work, we're going to skip 1 stitch behind because the post stitch counts for that stitch. So this is going to be the next stitch that we work into. We are going to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. So that's 1 and 2. I'm going to double check those 2 stitches behind have been skipped. And we're then going to work a front post double crochet V-stitch. So this is worked over 3 stitches, so 1, 2 and 3. And we're going to start by skipping the next stitch, ready to work around the post of the next stitch along from that. So we skip 1, which is this post, and we're going to work around the next post. So we yarn over the hook, we're skipping the next post and inserting our hook around that next post 2 rows below. So it should look like it's leaning ever so slightly. We need to skip that 1 stitch behind and work a single crochet in line with the post that we've just made. We're then going to work a second front post double crochet around that same post we've just worked. So we yarn over, insert back around that same post 2 rows below to work our next front post double crochet. So it looks like you've made a V, and that is our V stitch. We skipped 1 post for the first post stitch that we worked, a single crochet, and we're going to skip that next one. Now we're going to repeat working 1 V-stitch followed by 1 single crochet. We've already done the first one, so let's do the next one together. We're going to skip the next stitch and post, working around that middle post of the next 3 stitches. So we're skipping 1 and working around this next one. We yarn over, insert around that second post across. So we've skipped 1. We skip the stitch behind, working a single crochet into that stitch above that post we've just worked, and then we're going to work back around that same post again, working a second front post double crochet. We're going to skip 1 stitch for that post we've just worked. We've worked into that one, we're skipping this one and working a single crochet into the next. So that's our second V-stitch made. So we're going to skip the next stitch, working around that middle post of the next 3. So we yarn over, insert around from the front, out the front, and work that front post double crochet. Skip 1 stitch and work a single crochet in line with that post you've just made. We work a second front post double crochet around that same post. Going to skip 1 stitch behind for that last post that we made and work a single crochet into the next stitch. So continue to repeat that all the way across until you have 6 stitches remaining, and I'm going to meet you there. Making sure you've worked your last single crochet, you should have 6 stitches remaining, and we're going to work 1 single crochet into the next stitch again. So now we have 5 stitches remaining. We're going to work 1 front post double crochet around each of the next 2 post stitches 2 rows below. So we yarn over, we're going to work around this first post here, not this one because that counts for that stitch. We insert underneath the stitch that we're supposed to be working. We're going to repeat that and work around the next post. We're going to skip 1, skip 2, and you should have 3 stitches remaining, and we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of those last 3 stitches. So at the end of row 3, you should be looking a little bit like that, and we should have 5 of those V-stitches and a pair of posts at each end. For row 4, we're going to make a turning chain of 1, and we are working 1 single crochet into the same stitch as our chain 1 and each stitch across. We need to make sure that we're maintaining our stitch count of 33 stitches. So continue on to work row 4 and I'll meet you back to work our second row of our cable pattern. At the end of row 4, it's really important to make sure you have those 33 stitches. And we're going to go into our second row of the cable pattern with row 5, beginning with a turning chain of 1. We're going to work 1 single crochet into the same stitch as our chain 1 and 1 single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. We're going to work 1 front post double crochet around each of the posts 2 rows below. So we yarn over, insert our hook underneath that post stitch, making sure that it's nice and loose underneath and you're not catching any of the yarn. We're going to yarn over, bring our loop up, pull through 2 and pull through 2. So that's the first one. We're going to yarn over, insert underneath the second post to repeat that front post double crochet, and we're just going to be extending the length of those posts. We then single crochet into the next stitch on our current row, remembering that we need to skip 1 stitch for each post that we work. We're then going to work a front post double crochet right leaning, so we're going to work around this next post here. For the right leaning, we skip the next stitch and work around that next post. So we're going to yarn over, insert our hook underneath that next post stitch, yarn over, bring your loop up to complete your front post double crochet. We're going to skip 1 stitch behind and work a single crochet in line with that post we've just made to complete that stitch. We're then going to work 1 single crochet into the next stitch before working a front post double crochet T-stitch. And essentially our T-stitch decreases across the 2 posts that are next in our row. We're going to yarn over the hook, insert underneath that post stitch 2 rows below, yarn over, bring your loop up, yarn over and pull through just those first 2 loops. We're going to yarn over and then insert our hook around the next post. Yarn over, bring a loop up, so you should have 4 loops on your hook. We're going to yarn over, pull through those first 2 loops, and then yarn over and pull through the last 3 loops. We're going to skip 1 stitch because that T-stitch now counts as 1 stitch. So we're skipping 1 single crochet behind before we work 2 single crochets, 1 into each of the next 2 stitches. So it's brought those 2 posts together and it now counts as 1 stitch. Now we're going to repeat this all the way across until we have just 8 stitches remaining. So it's going to bring you just to that last post. I'm going to go through it with you a couple of more times. So we're going to work a single crochet into the next stitch before working our front post double crochet T-stitch. We're going to yarn over, insert our hook underneath that first loop, yarn over, bring your loop up, yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops. We're then going to work around that next post stitch. So we yarn over, insert under, bring your loop up, you should have 4 on your hook, yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through all 3. We're going to skip just 1 stitch because this counts as 1 stitch before working 1 single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. We've got 2 more to do, we might as well do them together. We're going to single crochet into the next before working our T-stitch. We yarn over, bring our loop up, pull through 2, yarn over, insert around the next post stitch, bring your loop up, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops, only skip 1 before working 1 single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. I'm going to work this one final time. We start with a single crochet into the next before working our T-stitch around those 2 post stitches. We skip 1 and work 1 single crochet into each of the next 2. You should have 8 stitches remaining, and I do, so that's good. We are then going to work a front post double crochet left leaning around this last post of our V's. With the left leaning, we start by working a single crochet into the stitch in line with that post stitch below, and then we're going to work a front post double crochet around that post stitch underneath the single crochet we've just worked. We're going to skip one stitch for that post stitch that we just made, and then we're going to work one single crochet into the next stitch. We're then going to work one front post double crochet around each of the next 2 post stitches. So yarn over and work your front post double crochet. That's one. Yarn over to work around that second post with another front post double crochet. You should have 3 stitches remaining, and you're going to work one single crochet into each of those last 3 stitches. At the end of row 5, your V's should be looking a little bit bigger. And row 6, we are simply repeating row 4. We make our turning chain of 1 and work one single crochet into each stitch across. At the end of row 6, you should have a stitch count of 33 still, and going into row 7, we begin with that turning chain of 1. We're going to work one single crochet into the same stitch as our chain 1, and then one single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. We're going to work a front post double crochet around each of the next posts, so that's 1, and we work a second one around the next. Going to skip 1, skip 2 to find that next stitch that we need to work, and we're just going to work a single crochet into that stitch. We're then going to work a front post double crochet left leaning over around that next post 2 rows below. So we begin by working a single crochet into the next stitch in line with that post stitch below, before working a front post double crochet around the post just underneath. We're going to skip 1 behind for that post we've just worked before working a single crochet into the next stitch. We're then going to work one front post double crochet V-stitch and single crochet into the next. So for our V-stitch, we're going to yarn over, we skip the next stitch, and we're going underneath that T-stitch from the row below. So we need to be careful that we go underneath what looks like 2 posts, but the T-stitch counts as 1. So we're making sure that we go underneath everything before we work our first front post double crochet of our V-stitch. We skip 1, we work a single crochet in line with the post we've just worked, and that third stitch for the V-stitch, we're going to go back around the whole of that T-stitch again, working another front post double crochet, skip 1 for that last post that we worked behind, and then work a single crochet into the next. Don't worry, I'm going to repeat that with you again. We're going to yarn over, ready to work our V-stitch across those next 3 stitches. So we yarn over, insert underneath the whole of that T-stitch from the previous row, bring up your loop and work your first front post double crochet. We're going to work a single crochet in line with that post stitch we've just worked, and then we're going to work a second front post double crochet around that stitch below. We skip 1 for the post we've just made, working a single crochet into the next. I'm going to repeat that across the next 2 of those T stitches, and I'm going to meet you when you have just 8 stitches remaining. Just working my final single crochet after that last V-stitch. We should now have 8 stitches remaining. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. We're going to work a front post double crochet right leaning around this last post in our V's. So with the right leaning, we start with our front post double crochet. So we yarn over, insert our hook around that next post and work our front post double crochet. We're going to skip 1 stitch and work a single crochet in line with that previous post stitch to complete that right leaning. We're then going to work 1 single crochet into the next stitch before working 1 front post double crochet around each of the next 2 posts. So that's 1 and 2. We should have 3 stitches remaining, and we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of the last 3 stitches. You can see how we're starting to weave these diamonds together. For row 8, we're repeating row 4, so we make that turning chain of 1 and then 1 single crochet into each of the stitches across. Going into row 9, we begin with that turning chain of 1. We're going to work 1 single crochet into the same stitch as our chain 1 and 1 single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. We're then going to work 1 front post double crochet around each of the next 2 posts, 2 rows below. So that's 1 and 2. We're then going to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. So that's 1 and 2. We're then going to work 1 single crochet into the next before working our T-stitch across the next 2 stitches. So we single crochet into the next stitch, ready to work our T-stitch around these next 2 posts. So we yarn over, insert, yarn over, bring your loop up, yarn over, pull through those T, 2, we yarn over, insert our hook under the next post, yarn over, bring your 4th loop up, yarn over, pull through 2, before we yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. Remember to skip 1 for that T-stitch that we've made, and then we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. We're going to repeat this all the way across to the last 6 stitches. So we start by working a single crochet into the next stitch before working our T-stitch over the next 3 stitches. So we yarn over, insert underneath that post stitch just underneath, yarn over and bring your loop up and pull through 2, yarn over, insert around the next post, yarn over, pull through 2, before yarning over and pulling through all 3. Skip 1 stitch behind for your T-stitch, working a single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. Continue to repeat that across to the last of your posts. So we're single crocheting before working our T-stitch around those next 2 posts. We skip 1 stitch behind for that T-stitch before working 1 single crochet into each of the next 2. Repeat that until you have 6 stitches remaining, and I will meet you there. You should have 6 stitches remaining, and we're going to work 1 single crochet into the next before working 1 front post double crochet around each of the 2 posts. So that's 1 and that's 2. We should have 3 stitches remaining, and we're working 1 single crochet into each of the last 3 stitches. At the end of row 9, you should be looking a little bit like that. You can really see that diamond pattern now. For row 10, we are making a turning chain of 1, ready to repeat row 4 once again, working 1 single crochet into each stitch across. Going into row 11, we begin with that turning chain of 1, working 1 single crochet into the same as our chain 1 and 1 single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. We're then going to work 1 front post double crochet around each of the next 2 posts. So that's 1 and 2, before working 1 single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. We're then going to work a front post double crochet V-stitch around the previous T-stitch 2 rows below. So let's do that together. So we yarn over, go underneath all of that T-stitch because it counts as 1 stitch, yarn over, bring your loop up, pull through 2, pull through 2. We're going to work a single crochet in line with that post we've just worked before working a second front post double crochet around the whole of that T-stitch. Going to skip 1 for that post we've just made and work a single crochet into the next. We're going to repeat this all the way across until we have just 6 stitches remaining. So I'm going to do one more with you. So we're working our V-stitch, we're yarning over, going underneath the whole of the T-stitch to work our first front post double crochet. We work a single crochet in line with that post we've just worked, and then we work a second front post double crochet around that T-stitch 2 rows below before working a single crochet into the next stitch on the current row. So continue to repeat that all the way across until you have just 6 stitches remaining, and then I'll meet you for the final part of row 11. Once you work that all the way across and have just 6 stitches remaining, we're going to work 1 single crochet into the next before working a front post double crochet around each of the post stitches 2 rows below. That leaves us with those 3 stitches remaining, ready to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 3 or last 3 stitches. That is everything we need to complete our square. So we're going to work rows 12 to 40, repeating rows 4 to 11 a further 3 times. We're then going to repeat rows 4 to 8 once more. Don't worry, you don't have to write that out. I have created a cheat repeat sheet, which I keep saying I really should have renamed because it's quite hard to say. But you can go ahead and download that. It's linked in the description box below, and then just tick your rows as you complete them. All the rows have been time-stamped in this video for you, so you can simply watch that with each repeat. And you are repeating rows 4 to 11 3 times, and then finally repeating rows 4 to 8 once more. You will end on a repeat of row 4, so you should have the wrong side of your fabric facing you. Once you've worked your repeats and you have 40 rows for your square, meet me back here and we will edge our squares together. Once you have worked all of your repeats, and you should be ending on row 40 with the wrong side of your fabric facing you, we're going to go straight into our edging. We're going to make a turning chain of 1. We're going to turn and work back across the top of row 40. We're going to work 1 single crochet into the same as our chain 1 and each stitch across. Into the corner we're going to be working 1 single crochet, a chain of 2 and a further single crochet into that row, into that corner. We're then going to rotate to work into the row ends. We're going to work down across our row ends just to neaten up this edge, and we're going to work 32 single crochets evenly across down to our next corner. So you will need to skip a few. I'm going to do 1 and 2 and then skip 1. So that's 3, 4 and 5 and skip 1. 6, 7 and 8, skip another one, 9, 10, 11 and 12, oops, 13, skip another one, 14 and 15, 16, skip 1, 17, 18, 19 and 20. Let's skip one more, we should be there. 20, okay, 21, 22, 23 and 24. I'm just going to check how many I have left. That was 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. Perfect. And that's number 32. That takes us to our next corner, and I'm going to work 1 single crochet, a chain of 2 and a further single crochet into that next corner. We are then going to rotate to work across the other side of our beginning chain, and if you've worked into your back bump you will have stitches to work into. It's a little bit easier, and we're just going to work 1 single crochet into each across. Into the corner we are once again working 1 single crochet, a chain of 2 and a further single crochet. We're going to rotate to work across these row ends once again, and once again we want to hit 32 single crochets evenly across back to our first corner. So go ahead and work your 32 single crochets in the same way that we did. Once you're back to your first corner, we are simply working 1 single crochet, your chain of 2, and slip stitching to that first single crochet we made in that round. Try that again. We can then fasten off to complete that square. So all that's left to do is to block that to size and get it to lay flat, because my singles always end up curly. We're going to have to weave those ends in, and of course for your Heritage 8 blanket you need to make 2 more. I have to say this is my favourite square. I absolutely love it. I hope you've enjoyed making your very own woven diamond square as part of the Heritage 8. Let me know in the comments how you got on with this gorgeous, gorgeous square, and I will see you in that next video.